So last week we were in domain 3, right? And domain 3 contains standard 1, standard 3, and technology applications 1 through 7, standards 1 through 7. And so we've gone through two of the competencies within domain 3. So we're going to do another one, and we're also going to review the ones that came before. Before we begin, I saw this, and I've seen this image of the iceberg utilized in, to describe many different things.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone. And so you have what you can see when you enter the classroom, and that's the part of the ice above the water. And then the iceberg that lurks below. And that's the work that the teacher did in order to make what you see happen. So I would like to just sort of discuss what are some of those things that happen that nobody sees. We talk about them all the time, the particular things that we need to do in order to be able to plan, to implement, and all of that stuff. What sort of things do we need to do to get to that point? What's the most important thing that we have to do regarding our instruction and our students before we begin teaching them? What do we have to do?
Lesson plan?
For sure, but even before lesson plans, what do you have to do in order to create a good lesson plan for your students, for your
Know your students.
Thank you, knowing your students, getting to know your students, assessing their prior knowledge, their skills, their strengths, their interests, all of the preparation, collaboration with other teachers, with other experts, everything that you do in order to make the magic happen in the classroom. There's so much that we consider that is outside of just the scope of our lesson, everything that we had to consider in order for that lesson to come to fruition. So the iceberg is sort of a very nice illustration of the magnitude of work that sort of goes unseen by the naked eye. But we teachers know how much goes into effective instruction. I mean, honestly, you could just go in there and wing it, but that's not going to be effective. And that's not going to be for all of your students, differentiated so that scaffolds and supports are in place so that there are pathways of success for everyone. Okay, so let's move on. So
Miss Stephanie, I had a quick question.
Sure, absolutely. Let's hear it.
I'm kind of looking. Are most districts or all schools now incorporating special needs students or 504 students pretty much on all classes,
Oh,
or only
absolutely.
certain
Yeah.
classes?
Yeah. They it depends. It depends on the student's placement, because by law, every student should be placed in the least restrictive environment, the least restrictive. And so it used to be, when I first started teaching, there was a group of students, they were special ed, and if they had difficulties, guess what I did? I sent them to the resource room. There was a room that they could go to. I didn't like to send them there. If they were having difficulty, I felt it my job to support them while they were there, not send them to someone else. That is not what we do in any way, shape, or form at all. We provide the supports in classroom, any students, and depending on the number of special ed students that you have in a classroom, you will be given.
The reason I was asking is because I've been doing, as you're aware, I've been doing security at one of the high schools, and I'm going into the trade and career because I'm going into the criminal justice. But I noticed that a lot of the, I guess, 504 students or special needs, I didn't see a lot of them in those schools, in the criminal justice or the automotive or the welding, like the trade schools. Or I don't know if it would just happen to be that it was just the luck of the draw that I didn't see many of those students in those classes. And I
Yeah,
was
it
just gonna
might
ask
just
you.
be, because certainly every class is available, and all students are able to get into all classes. Now, there might be limitations and stuff like that, and you have to take into consideration that some of these students, that's not part of their interest, so they might not have chosen that that particular route. But yes, absolutely, in every, whether you're PE, whether you're trade, whether you're dance, everyone is going to have special ed students, 504 students, students that need help with RTI via RTI because they're not labeled yet. They still need supports. And so especially our ELL students, right? Everybody has ELL. So there's a lot that goes into, you know, making it an effective lesson and implementation of effective instruction. Everything underneath is all the work that teachers put in. So for just a review, we discuss communication, competency 7, you understanding and applying principles and strategies, like you doing things and then doing strategies in order to get students to do particular things via communication, communicating effectively in varied teaching and learning opportunities between the students, small group, pairs, triads, whole group. Communication is key. Remember, every English language learner is simultaneously trying to acquire a second language while learning content specific on grade level TEKS. So in order for that to happen, we have to be supporting the students and creating opportunities for them to learn the language, listening, speaking, reading, and writing every single day. Listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Not a whole bunch, not saying to make them write a essay, but every day they're listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So the types of questioning that you are asking them, you're not just going to ask them, you know, yes or no questions. We want to ask questions that assess their knowledge, that make them think, that challenge them, more open-ended. You want to communicate so clearly and in multiple times, and then following up again, directions, explanations, and procedures, because that's going to help you. Remember, domain 3 is implementation. Domain 1 is you creating the lesson using everything that you know, the theory, what you know of your students, and what we know about teaching, research, best practices. And domain 3 is your implementation. And that you can't implement it without having good communication skills. So making sure that all parts of the lesson, whether it be directions, explanations, procedures, even rubrics or expectations, that those things are communicated clearly and effectively. And if you need to, add examples to enhance their understanding. You know, if they're need a model, provide a model. Provide examples, simplify complex tasks or ideas using appropriate communication tools, making sure that you're mindful of your nonverbals. We communicate verbally and nonverbally. Science tells us that even if we are saying positive things, if our nonverbals are speaking in a negative or sort of like not comforting way, our students are not going to respond to that. They will go inwards. Their brains will not be ready to do cognitive exercises. They're just not. If they feel that you don't like it, you don't like them from your nonverbals, you don't even have to tell them. And we all know, we've all had someone say, or you've said it about someone, oh, I can tell they don't like me. How can you tell if they've never told you? We can tell. So I'm going to go through these, and then here's another quick visual that I wanted to bring to your attention. Nobody will remember your salary, how busy you were, how many hours you worked, or how many Gucci bags you own, or Teslas, or houses, or boats. People will remember how you made them feel, the time that you spent with them, if you kept your word, and if they can count on you. And the same is true about our students. The same is true about our students. Nobody remembers their teacher because they were so rich, or they remember them because of how they made the student feel. And so when we go into the classrooms this school year, and when you're building what you want your class to be, I want for you to think of, what do you want your students to remember at the end of the year, 2 years from now, when they think back on your class? What would you want for them to remember? For me, man, I hope every single student that came through my classroom felt valuable and supported, and just like that they were limitless in my classroom, because I definitely try to convey that, to communicate that to them in my words, my nonverbals, in the effort that I put into getting to know them or choosing books that I thought they would like. All of those things speak to how you feel. And that for little kids, remember, not all of our students that we have are going to come from whole and happy homes. They might be missing a parent. They might have just lost a parent. My nieces and nephews just lost their dad, and one of them's going to junior high, one of them's going to be a junior, and it's just, you just never know what the students are dealing with. Remember, they are human beings, even if they are acting poorly or not, meeting the expectations of behavior. Remember that they are children, not fully formed, and they have no control over their lives. And so take it from an act of kindness, always, always. So the next competency that we looked at in domain 3 last week was competency 8. And this is a big one. Engaging instruction. Engaging means it's interesting. People want to do it. I want to be here and I want to do what you're telling me to do. It's engaging in a way. And there are research-based ways for us to promote engaging instruction. Actively engaging the students in the learning process, where you are doing things and have sort of crafted your lesson to make them interested or more open, internally motivated to engage in the learning process. Promoting their engagement by structuring lessons effectively, framing the lesson, beginning with like an overview, closing with a review. What did we learn? Flexible, purposeful grouping, extended wait times, making sure that your content is relevant and meaningful. It has to be relevant and meaningful, especially for special ed, not special ed, well, sort of. Under the special ed umbrella, GT students need it to be meaningful and relevant, or else they just can't and won't, and they'll eventually shut down. Remembering to activate the prior knowledge and utilize students' experience. For using their prior knowledge, you see something, you're like, oh, I know what that kind of is. That's the hook. Engaging. And it might not seem like a lot, but it is a lot, especially with the ones that we're going to review right now. Activating internal motivation via the student interests and giving them choices. Always give them a multiple avenues to show you that they can be successful. So maybe you have multiple ways they can show you what they know, or a choice in the topic. However you can sneak in choice, it bolsters their engagement in the activity. And I explained it to you last guy, saying I had very little choice. My parents were very strict with all 3 of my siblings. I mean, there's only 3 of us, all 2 of my siblings, but in any event, I really appreciated when I had choices in school, and I jumped on it. It was like, man, I'm going to do such a good job on Harriet Tubman. I chose her, and it might seem small, but these are children we're talking about. Children who don't get to choose what they eat, what they do, where they go, what they wear. And so this is their learning experience. Let them have a say. That goes so far in making them engaged. It just really does. Now, the last little bit here is ELPS, and I'm going to review some more ELPS questions with you because we didn't finish all of them last time, but English language proficiency standards. Proficiency standards. Are they proficient in English? And we have to monitor that, all of us, whether you're trade, whether you're dance, culinary arts, which is also trade, PE, it's all hands on deck with gaining language proficiency. With our ELO students, even with our native English speakers, they don't know all the language yet. Trust me, I taught English language arts and reading. 7th graders that are native English speakers, they need just the same amount of vocabulary instruction and visuals and support so that they can acquire more challenging and sort of rigorous language. Let me see. I don't think, guys, we didn't do this one last time. I think this is the one we left off on. This was about the plants, the interdisciplinary unit about plants. I don't know if you guys remember that one. Okay, so we did this
Remember
one.
which unit?
I'm sorry? We did this question last week.
Okay, no.
Okay, so let's do this one, and we're going to read the questions mindfully, pause, and identify keywords and phrases that are important, that might be important, that we deem as like, this is something I might want to pay attention to. Articulate in our own words, what is the goal here? What are we looking for? What is the goal in the scenario? What is the question asking for in layman's terms, in basic language? And then we are going to give each answer choice due process, meaning we're going to weigh each answer choice against the keywords and phrases that we identified and the goal that we established, and then eliminate accordingly, betting ourselves $5 when we can be sure it's not the right answer. So let's begin. These ones are going to be more, we ended with ELL type questions concerning the ALPS. We're going to continue with those and then lead into competency 9, which is technology in the classroom. So which of the following social studies activities would be most appropriate for English language learners who are reading and speaking at the intermediate language proficiency level in English? Let's pause after we read it mindfully. What keywords and phrases are here for us?
Reading and speaking intermediate.
All right, so we have reading and we have speaking, and this is an intermediate. Those are definitely keywords and phrases. Whenever we see most appropriate, we should know that they might have given us more than one correct answer, right? So what are we looking here? What's the goal? What are we supposed to be doing?
The most appropriate.
Right, we're looking for a reading and speaking activity. A reading and speaking activity that would be best or most appropriate for intermediate students, right? So it has to have both. If it does not have both reading and speaking, can it be the right answer?
No.
No. If it just has reading, it's automatically wrong. If it just has speaking, it's automatically wrong. So let's read our answer choices and then sort of, weigh them against what we've analyzed. Drawing individual portraits and naming the people in them. B,
Nope.
Participating in a guided discussion about community helpers and reading a passage about them. C, creating a model of a neighborhood out of small cardboard boxes with labels identifying a school, a town hall, and other community buildings. D, making a collage from magazine pictures of various forms of transportation and reading passages about them. Okay, let's go. We know, just as a review, we're looking for an activity that involves reading and speaking that would be appropriate or most appropriate for intermediates. What can we bet ourselves $5 is not the right answer because it doesn't either jive with our keywords and phrases, attend to all of them, or we know that for sure it's wrong and we can bet ourselves like for a particular reason. So let's take a look. What can we eliminate?
A.
Yes, why can we eliminate A? You're correct.
Drawing.
And they're not speaking or reading.
Thank you. There is no reading or speaking that is happening here, right? And it's drawing. What would drawing be more appropriate for? What level?
Beginner.
Thank you. Beginners. Yes. So typically we would accept drawings and whatnot from, and then just naming them. This would be something that a beginner student that would be more appropriate for them. So yeah. And it also not for nothing does not attend to reading and speaking, right? It doesn't do either of those. So it can't be, even if it was appropriate for their language proficiency, which it's not. So let's identify some more to eliminate. What else? So we have, excuse me?
D.
D.
To eliminate.
Making a collage for magazine pictures of various forms of transportation and reading passages about them. Right. And so why are we able to do that?
Because again, it's not reading or speaking.
Right. Well, there is reading.
But no speaking and a
No
collage.
speaking. The collage is not a speaking activity. So this part was correct. No, it's not enough. It doesn't attend to all of our keywords and phrases. Okay, so then we have participating in a guided discussion about community helpers and reading a passage about them, or creating a model of a neighborhood out of small cardboard boxes with labels identifying a school, a town hall, and other community buildings. Which one addresses the goal that we're looking for and attends to all our keywords and phrases?
B.
B.
B, absolutely. B is the only one that does both reading and speaking. And it's appropriate because it's a guided discussion about community members and reading a passage about them. So this is totally appropriate in that it's guided discussion and that we're, doing the reading, doing the speaking. So B is for sure, we can bet ourselves $5. That's the right answer. Oops. Oh man, I just zipped past. Okay. Middle school English language learner who is writing at an intermediate level of English language proficiency is most likely to demonstrate writing that includes which of the following. So what are our keywords and phrases?
Middle school.
Middle school, yes.
Writing at the intermediate
Writing
level.
at intermediate level.
Writing and
English.
intermediate, and then we have ELL.
English.
Right? All right, so we're looking for the level of proficiency is what we're looking at. Or no, not, we already have the level. We're looking at a characteristic of the level of proficiency, a characteristic of intermediate, right? So we want to know what a student, middle school student at an intermediate level is, what they're writing is likely to include. A, list of memorized phrases. B, use of native language. C, repetition of ideas. D, abstract content. So what can we eliminate and say that the intermediate students that's not going to be what their writing is going to demonstrate?
Abstract.
Use of native language.
Those
That
two are
too.
excellent ones.
B.
Those two. Abstract. What is abstract indicative of?
Advanced high.
More advanced high.
Advanced high. I would say advanced high. Advanced is stuff. I mean, advanced would need some sort of a scaffolds still. Advanced high for sure. And then the use of native language, that's mostly what?
Beginner.
Beginner for sure. So we're left with A and C. Of these two, which is most likely going to be demonstrated in the writing of an intermediate student, intermediate ELL student?
Repetition.
Repetition of ideas.
Yes, repetition of ideas is going to be the most likely. And there's others. You will also have misuse of past and future tenses. That is actually the most common. Well, I mean, there's several, but that one is a decider in between advanced and advanced and intermediate. Intermediate students will struggle still with tenses, and they will only be able to write effectively in short, simple, present tense sentences. Once they master tenses, they move to the advanced level of writing. Well done, guys.
So the with the list of memorized phrases, I'm sorry, can you repeat that about the list of memorized phrases, why that wouldn't be it? I mean, I know that it's the repetition of ideas, but
right. So you're more likely to get a list of memorized phrases or words from a beginner than you would an intermediate. Because intermediates don't have any of the like to compose a sentence. They don't have the individual words, and so they will either write it in the native language and or copy the prompt over and over again and just write the words over and over, or any memorize, even what is it called, environmental prints. Like if you have beginners and you give them a writing task, they might start writing things that they're seeing on a poster on the wall. So because they don't have the language yet to form their own words. Intermediates do have basic language, and so they will be able to come up with original, simple sentences of their own, but they are going to repeat ideas because they're lacking in a variety of words, right? And so they're going to continue to say things over and over again in much of the same way.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, another social studies class. A social studies class, including English language learners at varying levels of English language proficiency, is analyzing the reasons for the colonization of North America. The lesson plan states that the students will read the colonization of North America sections in their social studies text and independently complete a timeline detailing the establishment of the 13 colonies. Which of the following instructional activities is most beneficial in helping ELLs build background knowledge prior to the assessment? Okay, this is a bigger sort of chunk of text. Let's analyze it. What are we looking for? What keywords and phrases, and what things should we pay specific attention to?
Background knowledge prior to assignment.
Prior. If they give you any time markers before, during, after, prior, that's important. Background knowledge. So what is the goal here? Is this the goal here, to build background knowledge?
Yes.
Prior, before the assignment. So what's the assignment? The assignment is analyzing the reasons for colonization of North America. Remember, what else is important? We have ELLs, right? Is this important? Varying levels?
Yes.
Very.
Because not everyone is at the same level for this assignment.
Exactly. So the students have to read the colonization of North America sections in the textbook and independently complete a timeline detailing the establishment of the 13 colonies. So everyone in this social studies class has to do this. We have varying levels of English language proficiency, and everyone has to read North American sections in their text and then independently complete a timeline detailing the 13 colonies. We want to know which of the following instructional activities that the teacher could do would be most, and they said most, so maybe they gave us more than one, most beneficial for the goal, which is to build background knowledge. Background knowledge prior to the assignment, prior to the reading, prior to the timeline. What would be the best thing we could do to support varying levels of ELL students? Let's take a look. The teacher presents a slideshow that depicts critical events and life in the colonies. Students create dioramas that depict critical events in establishing the colonies and share them with the class. The teacher provides students with a brief lecture on the colonies, supplemented with maps. Students work in cooperative groups to complete a concept map detailing what they already know about the colonies. So remember, our goal is to build background knowledge prior to this assignment for our varying levels of ELO. Which one of these is the most appropriate way to do this? What can we, I would say that's a pretty good one, but what can we just get rid of, because we know this is not going to work for varying levels of ELO students?
I would say 4 or D. Or
Right.
4, whatever.
Yeah, I was confused with that too. So this cooperative learning groups, what was one of the things? They have to do it independently, don't they?
Right.
So having them work in cooperative groups will not help them be able to do it independently. You're just going to put them in groups and then do a concept map, what they already know. Remember, the goal is to build background knowledge. They probably don't know a whole bunch if they're ELL students about the 13 colonies. So D would be super unhelpful in helping them gain prior knowledge. It's testing if they have prior knowledge, but that's not what we're supposed to be doing here. You said something else, another one we could get rid of for better selves, $5.
3 to me for sure. I mean,
3. Why would 3 not be the best answer? You're correct. It isn't. What word in there makes us know 3 is not it?
a lecture.
The lecture part.
And how is it a super explanatory, explicit?
No, it's brief.
It's brief. It's like, guys, these are the 13 colonies, and that's the way America started. Now go ahead and read your textbooks. Like, that's a brief lecture. And then showing them just maps. Remember, maps have English language on it also. How helpful is just showing ELL students maps without really getting into the nitty gritty? So 3 is not it either. Or C. What about students create dioramas? What's a diorama?
I don't know what it is exactly, but I know it's complicated.
It's a model. It's like a whole, yeah, it's a whole model of the whole thing. It'd be like having them create different
some kind of box model.
A box model depicting a picture of the time or whatever. And so before they begin this assignment, do you think that this would be a great assignment to give our ELL students, have them create this very detailed model showing critical events in the colonies? Remember, this is before they even know anything about it. This would not be a good activity. It would create confusion, even for the native English speaking students. It would. The best way to build background knowledge, not just for your ELLs, but literally for everyone, your special ed students, 504, general ed, native English speakers, is to show a slideshow, show all of the different historical pictures. And you want to throw in a map, cool, throw that in there, but with explanation and pictures of what inhabited that, their connections can be made. So, A is the only correct answer. Or 1. Okay. A teacher notices that while students generally understand what they're reading and are able to retell or summarize text, many students do not understand the text at a deeper level. Which of the following techniques would be most appropriate for the teacher to use to promote all students' deeper comprehension? Okay, what are we looking at here?
Promote deeper comprehension.
Deeper level. So a deeper comprehension is what we're wanting, right? Deeper comprehension. She wants on a deeper understanding, on a deeper level is deeper comprehension. And we want to promote that for our students. Most appropriate. We're looking for techniques. What can the students do? Because that's important. This question's sort of like asking us to assess. This teacher's already made an assessment. She notices, which is an assessment, guys, that the students generally understand, which means they comprehend what they're reading, and they're able to retell or summarize, like, this is what happened and then this happened next. But many can't get to the deeper connection, that deeper meaning. And we want to look for a technique that would help students get to that deeper level of understanding. So let's take a look. Leading the students in a whole group reading of the text, followed by a group discussion of the reading. Showing the students how to use an outline to take notes on the text and then use the notes to write responses. Providing the students with adequate background knowledge to engage in text discussions and to respond to higher level questioning. Having the students respond to the text by creating a related project, such as a series of drawings or multimedia presentation. So we want to look for the most appropriate way for the teacher to promote deeper understanding of the text. Remember, they understand it, they can retell the high points and summarize it, but it's that deeper connection. So how can we make that leap to the deeper connection? Which one of these will not do it? You'll say, like, that's not going to help anybody get to a deeper level of comprehension.
The whole group reading text followed by a group discussion of the reading.
Right. Well, how
that won't do it. That's what you're asking, right? The one that
right,
won't do it?
right. Yeah. So why wouldn't this do it?
Because it's basic. They can do it on themselves and still not get deeper comprehension.
I think she did that anyway, right? I think that they read it and she figured out they generally understand it and they can retell it, but they're not getting that deeper sense of something. So just the reading and having that discussion, it's not enough just to have a free form discussion. That's not going to do it alone. One of these is a better answer because it's not just like a open discussion. It's like particular and purposeful. What else can we get rid of?
B as well.
E. Like outlines and taking notes. This helps you understand and be able to retell and summarize. They can do that already. We want them to get the deeper connection, that higher level thinking. So we are left with C and D, having the students respond to text by creating a related project, such as a series of drawings or multimedia presentation, or providing the students with adequate background knowledge to engage in text discussions and respond to higher level questioning.
I will go with D.
D is the one to eliminate?
No, I will go with it, like, pick it.
Oh, okay. Any other thoughts, guys?
I would say C.
Okay, so
C as well.
we're in
I will say, I'm sorry, I will say C because it's from C and D, it's the one, C is the one that is like essential. It needs to happen.
It needs to. And let's go back to our goal. Always think which one, if you left between two answer choices, go back to your goal and say, okay, which one of these would best promote my students' deeper comprehension, deeper understanding of the text? Would drawing pictures or doing a multimedia presentation help them create a deeper understanding? Or would me doing a better job providing background knowledge to the text and then creating better higher level questions to engage them with during group discussion? Which one of these is better for a more clear comprehension for the students?
By what you're saying in the tone, I'm assuming I'm wrong, but I think a book report would be, which is what D is, basically, to get you to understand what's really going on. Like, that's what essentially what it is, like a book report. D, build something like a multimedia presentation, a book report. And C, they don't comprehend it already on a deep level, and you're going to hit them with higher level questioning. That's why I would go with D, but I'm assuming I'm wrong.
Yes, sir. So D is a great activity. And when they say most because they've given you activities that you completely would do. And they told, of course, D would also help make a personal connection to the reading, right? Them creating a project related, whether it's drawings or multimedia. But when you want them to understand a particular, for instance, like if you're reading, let's say I'm reading a poem, and it was written during the time, like during the, Jim Crow era, right? And I read it and then we analyzed it just from the words. The students might not understand the deeper level of the words. However, had I began my lesson with just showing them a little bit about what Jim Crow was like, the Jim Crow laws, visuals, some things, blah, 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 and then told them this poem was written by a young Black boy in America during Jim Crow. That context, that background knowledge allows them to delve deeper into the understanding, like, oh, it wasn't just about someone sticking out a tongue. They stuck it out because he was Black and it hurts. Like, it changes things for them and they're able to comprehend much more deeply. But that I have to make sure that if I know there's a deeper meaning, that I provide adequate buildup, background knowledge, and that I craft questions to elicit, to drive them in that direction, because they're not just going to find the deeper comprehension in a project that they do, or they're not just going to find it in an organic group conversation. The teacher has to know where she's trying to drive them to and have particular questions to sort of like get them there during these engagements with the text discussions. So C is the best answer. And it also is using a lot of buzzwords. We have them engaging in the text. We always want our students to engage with the text, making connections with it. Responding to higher level questioning. Higher level questioning means deeper comprehension. Remember, the higher on Bloom's taxonomy you are, the deeper your understanding is. Correct?
Yep, 10-4.
Good deal. They're tricky, guys. Not for nothing, they give you multiple correct
Are these are from that competency 7 for domain 3, or where are these questions from?
That's correct. This is domain 3, competency 8, I believe we're on now.
Okay.
All right. A 6th grade world cultures class contains several English language learners at various levels of English proficiency. To best help the ELLs connect to the content, which of the following, I'm sorry, I lost my place. Which of the following should the teacher do first? All right. What keywords and phrases?
6th grade.
Yes.
You should do first.
Should do first. Thank you. Whenever they give you a time marker, before, during, after, you have got to pay attention to it because it's important. We do different things first. We do different things before the lesson, during the lesson, after the lesson. So,
several English languages. Yes.
Yeah, English language learners, various levels of proficiency. Right. And so we are looking for a way to connect, to help ELLs, and they said best. So that means like saying most. They might have given us more than one way, more than one correct way you can connect, have them connect. So we have the 6th grade world cultures class, several ELL learners, various levels of proficiency, meaning beginner all the way to advanced high. We want to best help our ELLs connect to the content area, to whether it's math, science, social studies. Oh wait, it's world cultures. We don't have to guess. Which of the following should them do first? The first thing, highlight the critical content that will be in the text. Ask questions about the content that activate high levels of thinking. Access their prior knowledge about the content. Provide graphic organizers that outline the main ideas of the text content. So we have various levels. They haven't just given us one. So we need to be accommodating for all of the levels. Which one of these would do the best job of accommodating all levels? What can we eliminate and say this is not going to help our ELL students?
D.
B?
No, D is in dog.
D. Yep. It won't help them connect. Remember, this is the goal. The goal is connection. Graphic organizers help the students understand or organize the material, right? And we do use graphic organizers very often to organize text and in different concepts or ideas that we find in any given text, a way in which to organize. We certainly would use those with ELLs, but this is not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get the students to connect with the contents. Become interested. Remember, become engaged. Engaging instruction. That's what this competency is about. Competency 8, engaging instruction. So for a way for them to connect, we're left with A, B, and C. What else can we eliminate and say this is not going to help them connect to the content?
A,
highlighting will do nothing to connect. It might draw their eyes to words on a paper, but it's not going to elicit a connection in any way, shape, or form. So we have asked questions about content that activate high levels of thinking and access their prior knowledge about the content. Remember, whenever we get these two, which one has to happen first? Incidentally, they asked us which one has to happen first, but they don't always, and you can only have one. So if one of these is going to happen without the other, which do you need to happen?
By common
C.
knowledge or sense, it's
It
C,
would
prior
be
knowledge
C,
has
wouldn't it?
to go first.
C has to happen, right? Of course, we're going to ask questions, but we're not like higher levels of thinking, like with our ELL students that are beginners, this is not going to be very helpful for them. Finding ways to access their prior knowledge before we begin a lesson. It's just the lesson trailer, like a movie trailer. I honestly can't get excited to go see a movie I've never seen a trailer for. I have no idea what's going to go on. I don't know. Same thing with the lesson. Give them that activating that prior knowledge, giving them background information prior to the onset of the lesson elicits that connection or engagement with the student. We made it to the next one. I don't know that we'll have time to go through all of the questions because there's quite a few technology type, and I only chose the ones for use of.
If we don't finish them today, would we be able to go over them on Saturday?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. We'll finish Saturday. We'll finish domain 3 for sure on Saturday. Oh, I hope so, because I keep on saying that. So we still have technology, this domain that we're looking at right here, which is competency 9, still in domain 3. And we also have competency 10 still in domain 3. So there's 4 competencies in domain 3. There is 7, which was communication, 8, which was engage in instruction, 9, which is implementation of technology in order to enhance, organize, delivery, and your evaluation for all students. It's just supposed to make everything better. All of our instruction more collaborative and efficient. And then 10, which is your assessment. How are you actively assessing them and being a responsive instructor, giving that high quality feedback? And that's what competency 10 is about. So we won't finish competency 9 today, but we'll finish competency 9 and 10 on Saturday. And then I suppose next week we'll do domain 4, which is not as in depth because it's mostly like common sense, common knowledge. These are the rules of our profession and ethical responsibilities and so forth, the way in which we engage with our colleagues and the education community at large. So that won't take so long, and it typically doesn't give people that much difficulty, to be honest with you, on the exam. So let me go back. The teacher incorporates, infusing, not always, when necessary, when you can make your lessons more effective with the use of technology to help you plan, to help you organize, to help you deliver, to help you evaluate instruction for all students. And they will give you test questions where the teacher has to choose the appropriate technology to help plan, or the appropriate technology to help organize, or the appropriate technology to help deliver. Likewise, evaluate. And other things, obviously, within those 7 standards that are in the technology application standards. So this is about you finding technology that is task appropriate. That's why I put task appropriate. We don't just choose technology willy-nilly. We have a task, we have something to do, a problem to be solved, and you find technology to do that. So choosing task appropriate tools is the first part, technology, but not just that. Notice the second word. You choosing the tools, but as a teacher, it's not enough for us to say, okay, guys, everybody's going to get to use this computer program with your groups. Once a day, groups have to share. You have to have procedures in order for the students to have fair, equitable, effective use of the tools. So having those tools and procedures in place, clearly communicated, so that they remain effective tools in the classroom. Choosing technology that allows your students to synthesize knowledge. Synthesize means bring forth. It's the highest level of critical thinking. Synthesis is the highest level of Bloom's taxonomy. It is creation. And technology allows for students to practice synthesizing their knowledge by themselves and with peers. So you should create task appropriate tools to help you create and modify solutions and evaluate results to support the work of individuals and groups. This is important because technology can be used individually. And the other really important part of technology for education is that it allows us to collaborate. I don't have to be in a lesson planning period with a particular group of teachers to come up with an assessment. I can create a Google document and then share it with them and say, okay, guys, this is the assessment we're going to be using. Please make your notes, like, and then you do it at your own time, in your own place, not in the same location. So being able to allow individuals and groups to work on problem solving, and there's so many. I mean, we don't really think of them as problems, but how best to get students to engage with a particular lesson or particular concept is a problem. Technology helps us problem solved. And also when we're doing project-based learning activities. And so when you're planning, creating, editing, word processing documents and spreadsheets and databases, you're utilizing those appropriate tools. Using graphic tools, when you participate in electronic communities where you're a learner, where you're an initiator, you're giving the session, or you're a contributor. Enhancing your communication, not just to your students, but to your parents, to your colleagues, to the administration, to the community via slideshows, multimedia presentations, and newsletters. And again, it allows you to increase collaboration with teamwork. And that's for you as a teacher, but also for the students. The students don't have to be limited to that 45-minute class period where they're going to have time to work or revise their essays. They can Google share the document or some other word processing document and do the comments change and work on it collaboratively. Using rubrics to assess student technology products. This is really important. And 6, it's written kind of weird, so you might not understand it, but you must use a rubric when you are going to be grading a student's use of technology products. So if I was going to give my students maybe a multimedia project that they have to come up with after reading a poem, I can't just say, okay, guys, we're going to have a multimedia presentation over a poem, di que te fue bien, hope you do good. I have to give them a rubric that specifies, how many slides, like, are there visuals on here? The very particulars, so that the students have particular criteria and expectations for success, and they know what to expect out of the use of the technology. And then 7, very, very important, we would never choose a technology that is not accessible to all students. So you can't choose it. Like if you have a special ed student and one student is unable to use whatever technological tool you chose, that's not okay. They're in your class. You need to choose a technological tool that is accessible to all students, so that you don't have to change the lesson goals or the lesson objectives for one student, because that means that one student misses out on the goals and the high expectation of that lesson. So we would certainly not choose a technology if it were going to leave a group of students out. That is unacceptable. So let's take a look at some practice questions. While attending a regional professional development workshop, a 5th grade team of teachers participates in a small group discussion on implicit bias and instruction. During the discussion, several teachers verbally agree that they have not selected more diverse texts for their reading curriculum because sometimes diverse texts are not rigorous enough. Which of the following steps should an English language arts teacher take first to address the effect such implicit bias has on instruction? Woo! What keywords and phrases? What are we looking for?
5th grade.
5th grade, absolutely. What's the problem that we're solving? What's the goal?
Addressing implicit bias.
Yes, we want to sort of like decrease implicit bias, right?
And it's also asking you for a sequence, which is first to address.
Right. First, what is important for you to do first? There's multiple steps, guys. And with many of these questions and answer choices, there's multiple steps. They're asking for the first one. We have this group of 5th grade teachers talking about implicit bias. During the discussion, they're actually like, you know what? I don't actually select a lot of diverse tests. No, but it's because those texts are not rigorous enough, was the discussion. The question is asking us to fix it. How do we address implicit bias in the classroom? And what would we do first in order to, what's the first step to address implicit bias? So let's take a look. A, researching and reading professional texts and developing a curriculum that represents diverse voices. B, modeling positive behavior and attitudes during classroom activities. C, learning about and taking into account students' cultural norms and expectations when creating rubrics. D, reflecting on and writing about personal experiences related to implicit bias. So we're looking for the first step in order to address the effect of implicit bias on what? Instruction. Not on the teacher. Just an FYI, just throwing out a freebie out there. What can we bet ourselves $5 is not the right answer because it doesn't jive with keywords and phrases and it doesn't address our goal.
That one you circled?
For sure, because this is not about rectifying it in the classroom. This is about, I don't even know, this is about journaling for the teacher. And they might have them do that at the thing, but this is not going to be the first step to rectifying it in the classroom instruction. What else could we eliminate? Because that's not going to be the best first step to address implicit bias.
B.
B, yeah, I'm pretty sure they were doing this. I hope they were doing this before, like here, while they were being implicitly biased. They were modeling positive behavior, but still the text was implicitly. That means you're not on purpose trying to be biased. You just like, oh, all my texts are made by white guys. I have nothing by any other cultures. That's implicit bias. And students need to see themselves in their learning environment to feel as though it's theirs. Like everything they learn and look at is other than that tends to not feel like yours. So making sure that we're infusing and giving them a diverse view and contact with diverse texts. So we are left with A and C, as we most often are, with two answer choices. We have researching and reading professional texts and developing a curriculum that represents diverse voices, or learning about and taking into account students' cultural norms and expectations when creating rubrics. Which one of these is best for instruction and implicit bias as a problem solver, as a solution?
A.
I would do A.
A.
Absolutely. C is wrong.
Only because it says the whole diverse voices.
And this is about creating rubrics. Like this is about rubrics. Remember, rubrics are for assessment. And so, yeah, of course you should be learning and taking into account. You should do this always and every time, but not just with rubrics, like just always. researching and reading professional texts and then developing curriculum with more diverse texts is the first step to eliminating implicit bias and still maintaining rigorous curriculum. So A is correct. This one's an easy peasy one. A high school science teacher plans for students to collect data and analyze it, then create charts to display their data. Which of the following types of software is the best choice to document and organize this task?
A spreadsheet.
Spreadsheet.
Survey says, thank you. So this one, we don't really have to do like bet yourself $5. If you chose internet browser, please Google these terms. But they will ask you about stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like monitors, output devices, closed networks. And remember that your the technology application standards in their entirety are in your Google Drive folder. So yes, you are correct on that one. All righty. Ooh, let's see. This one should be another one where you guys can tell me the right answer real quick. Which of the following should teachers consider when choosing a new technological tool to use in classroom instruction? Which of the following should teachers consider when choosing a new technological tool to use in classroom instruction? A, whether students will be able to take the technology home with them. B, whether the technology is accessible to students with disabilities. C, whether the technology can be used for every future classroom activity. D, whether the teacher requires instructional training before properly using the technology. Now, guys, based on the small direct instruction that I gave of technology, which is the only right answer that's here, when you're thinking about using a new technological tool, what is the first thing I said you must consider?
B.
B.
Students with disabilities.
Absolutely. It has got to be accessible for all students, or it is not your new technological tool that you'll be choosing. You will choose something else. So it has to be accessible. A is never going to be the right answer because remember, this is a theoretical test. In theory, of course, they'll be able to take technology home and do what they need to do. We don't need the technology to be able to be used with every activity. See how C says whether the technology can be used for every future classroom activity? That's like when they say every or never, or even when those really like extreme words, those are never going to be the right answer. And we would never choose a technological tool based on whether or not we had to get PD. Like most of the time we do have to get PD, and that's fine. We'll just get it and then we'll be professionally trained, but it's not going to be something that's going to affect our choice in using that tool. All right. Before 7th grade students begin a research project, the teacher provides criteria for evaluating online sources. Which of the following approaches would be most effective in further promoting the student's ability to evaluate online sources? What keywords and phrases, and what is the goal in the question? What are we looking for in layman's terms?
Evaluating online resources and before 7th grade.
Online, they're evaluating. And what is the goal? What is the teacher's goal here? She wants them to be able to do what?
Most effective to evaluate sources.
On their
The ability of students.
The student's ability, right? The student's ability to evaluate. We want the students to be able to evaluate their own online sources, right? So before 7th graders begin the research project, she provides criteria. These are the criteria that you need to use, qualifications for evaluating online sources. Now they're asking what else the following approaches would be most effective in helping them be able to evaluate them by themselves, right? The student's ability. Providing guidelines for conducting effective advanced keyword searches. Demonstrating how to locate bibliographies on particular subjects and subject areas. Discussing ways to supplement online research with interviews and surveys. D, introducing basic principles for considering the authority and reputation of a source. We forgot to say it's 7th grade, guys. That's important. Remember, age group, grade level tells us, is this developmentally appropriate? Would this be appropriate for 7th graders? Okay, so we know that we're looking for something to help the students be able to evaluate by themselves. And one thing that this teacher has done is given this criteria. What else can he or she do to help promote the student's ability? Let's eliminate ones that are not it. That's not going to help them evaluate online sources.
A,
the conducting advanced keyword searches. So that might allow them to find a whole bunch of, sites, right? But that still doesn't help in their ability to evaluate. So A cannot be right because it doesn't help at all with them understanding what makes something credible and what makes it not credible. What else? Which one of other ones might we eliminate and bet ourselves $5? That's not the answer.
C,
discussing ways to supplement online research with interviews and surveys. Again, no discussion dealing with their understanding of credibility for sourcing and ways in which credibility is affected. So we're left with B and D, demonstrating how to locate bibliographies on particular subjects and subject areas, or introducing basic principles for considering the authority and reputation of a source.
D.
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 Is the correct answer?
Correct.
Yes.
D.
Yes. Survey says that is. Yes. This is the one that will help them. So we gave them criteria, but also teaching them about the people who's writing. Who's the author? What is the publication source? Is it a reputable source? Or is it somebody's personal blog? If it's a personal blog, we won't use that in a research project because it lacks credibility in a scholarly sense, in any sense of the word. So we're going to end it there today, guys, because it's 7:32, but we will begin again. We'll review real quick the competencies of domain 3 and then finish up with the remainder of the technology questions. I believe there's like 6 more. And then finish up with the last competency in domain 3, which is your assessment and your responsive instruction. High quality feedback.
Sounds good. So you'll send us another email link
Absolutely.
for Saturday at what time?
Saturday at 11.
11. All right. Sounds good.
All right, guys. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So, oh, don't leave yet, guys.
Roll.
Yes. Chihuahuas. I almost did it again. Almost forgot to take roll. All right. And there's 13 of you here, so that would have been terrible because I would not have been able to remember everyone. Alrighty. So you can leave if I call your name already. Eric Lopez, Felix Trevino, Luis Gonzalez. Monica, what's your last name? Oh, wait, I don't have to give you attendance. Ricardo.
Here.
Thank you. Saraí. Teresa Torres. Belinda. Julian.
Here.
Thank you. Dionisio Rodriguez.
Have a good one.
You too. You guys have a beautiful rest of your day. Enjoy it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes. Jorge Vela. Nomi
you.
Hernandez. And is there anyone I didn't call? I feel like I called everyone. Eric Lopez. Yeah, I got you. Okay, that's everyone. Oh, no. Mariana, I almost missed you. All right. Ahora sí, now I have everyone.
Saturday will be, I'm gonna be out of town, Miss Stephanie, on Saturday, so I'll be in Mexico. I won't be able to be on the Saturday class.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and video it, and then I'll just send you the links.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. You guys have a beautiful rest of your evening.
Miss
Miss
Sauceda, I
Sauc-
have a question, a really quick
Sure.
question.
Sure.
I am doing the PPR on Saturday. Do I need to notify anyone that I have already registered for an exam?
You're taking it on Saturday?
Yes.
The Saturday? No, telling me is enough. I'll make note of it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck. Remember to use all your strategies.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Sauceda, quick question.
Yes.
When we're on these study sessions, I know you have all the questions posted up when you're seeing it. Is there the Google Docs where I can